We saw how we can use a for loop to loop over an array and do something to each of the items in the array. We saw that in a previous video. There's another way to do that, and it's a little shorter and a little cleaner. So the array object has a method called forEach, and when you use forEach, you actually put a function inside the parentheses that go with the method forEach. And we haven't talked about functions yet, but bear with me, okay? So we can loop over an entire array and do what's highlighted here, what's in the parentheses after forEach. We can do all those things to each item in the array. So I am calling forEach on an array named firstArray, and it's defined up here, and it's got 4 colors in it. It's got 4 strings. And then I also have a second array, which I have initialized as empty. It's got nothing in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each item in the array, and I'm going to say if that item's length, and it's a string, right? So how many letters does it have? If the length is greater than 4, push that item into my second array. So after I run this, we'll see what's in the second array. And I can console log my second array. And we see that 2 things have been put into it, and both of them have more letters than 4. So red and blue from first array were not put in. So forEach acts like a for loop only on an array, and you don't have to use the whole for loop thing with the let I equals 0 and all that stuff, which is often confusing to beginners. And I've got an example also over here in Replit of an array where some more things are done. So I've got names of presidents, and I've got a little counter. So I set up a counter at 0, and I am going to count how many of the names in my array don't contain James and don't contain Adams. So I'm going to console log the ones that do contain James or Adams, and then I'm going to count all the ones that don't. And after the forEach has completed, when it's all done, which is here, then just once I'm going to console log how many names did not contain those 2 strings. So I will run this, and it does pretty much what you would expect. But I wanted to demonstrate that it's doing things to each item in the array, and we're not using a for loop. We are using the array method forEach, which contains an anonymous function inside its parentheses. So you don't have to use forEach. If you're comfortable with the regular for loop going over an array, that's perfectly all right.